Time to hunt.
Hearing those words in 1994 instantly put a smile to my face. Capcom releasing Aliens versus Predator. Much in the vein of, say, Robocop versus Terminator, but this time brought into more of a beat 'em up genre. This was, of course, in 1994, as I previously mentioned, where Capcom is completely just killing it in the arcades. They, of course, just released Dungeons and Dragons Tower of Doom, another beat 'em up multiplayer. This game does have up to 3 players, which you can play at the same time. You can choose between 2 Marines, basically humans, also a Predator Warrior, and a Predator Hunter, in the fictional city of San Dread in California. The characters, as I mentioned, is a Predator Hunter, who is a younger Predator, a little faster, with similar stats to the Warrior, but not quite as strong. The Predator Warrior is pretty much the most balanced fighter in the game. He's got a little bit of length as far as range in his attack. For the 2 human Marines, you've got Major Dutch Schaefer, of kind of a nod to Arnold Schwarzenegger a bit, especially with his physique and army cut on his head. It's definitely a tank character, and well, of course, one of the slowest as well. He does have some grappling moves, and of course a power smash charge. You also, last but not least, have Lieutenant Lin Kurosawa, who is the fastest and most agile fighter in this particular game, as the other 3 are a bit stronger in regards to their attacks. She does have a lot of decent and fun combos, especially if you're surrounded by enemies. A really large part of the fun of Alien vs. Predator is that every character, as I mentioned, plays a little differently, especially with different melee weapons, or should I say melee weapons. The Warrior has an extendable retractable spear. The Hunter has a staff that's bladed. Lin Kurosawa has a katana. And Dutch has his kind of a steel robotic arm. And each character also actually has projectile attacks. And they can also do pickups as well. So you can pick up things ranging from flamethrowers, machine guns set in the Aliens universe. Definitely quite a bit of also hidden moves which you can do. The levels themselves are just right. They're not too long, they're not too short. Graphics are amazing. Very much 90s for Capcom, especially with the CPS2 hardware. They're large, very colorful, quite a few frames of animation. It also makes me wonder how a CPS3 fighter would have looked designed by Capcom. But one can only wonder. Though I also wonder what if maybe they gave this game to Arc Systems, kept it as a beat 'em up, and it was then just up-res using Arc Systems engine, but still basically kept it as a beat 'em up. One could always hope. There are some complaints with some of the enemies not having quite a lot of animation, but I think with the number of enemies that is displayed on screen versus, say, their original final fight, I do prefer the number of enemies on the screen versus having a lot of animations for each. That definitely would have slowed down the game a lot. The backgrounds are very well designed. They're, dark, very sci-fi, very much in that mixture of the graphic novels of the Alien vs. Predator, and also taking some nods from the movies as well, with some original Alien characters, which of course uses some move sets from a lot of the Capcom beat 'em ups from the past. And honestly, with this and Dungeons and Dragons Towers of Doom and Shadow of Mysteria, I actually think these are better beat 'em ups than the original Konami arcade beat 'em ups like Simpsons and X-Men. Of course, they came much later, so of course there's a lot more room to be innovative and have more frames of animation, and also with the enemies. The physical controls for the game are deceptively simple, with only 3 buttons. There's a button for jumping, one for attacking, and if you press both, it will unleash their special attack. There's also a special button that uses each character's either gun or laser, which of course can heat up for the humans, and the same thing also with the the predators. However, there are power-ups in the stage at certain points where it'll actually will give you unlimited ammo if you're human, or unlimited as far as temperature in regards to the alien's laser. The game, of course, is your standard moving from left to right, beat 'em up fare. There's also some elevator levels that, of course, harken back to many beat 'em up standards. You're also able to shoot down enemies, pick up other melee weapons such as swords, staffs, things of that nature, even pick up the glaive weapon that the predators use as well. A lot of the times, the buttons themselves have auto combos by just pressing the attack button. There's also some hidden characters as far as you can actually double tap the left or right directions for a dash, for especially with the faster character, and then with Dutch that gives come in kind of like a shoulder charge as well. The one thing that does happen a little bit later on, especially if you're playing by yourself, is that the game can get really tough with the number of enemies, and of course, this being an arcade game, the number of cheap hits that do happen. Much like the Final Fight type games, you can pick up food in order to bring your life back, and of course, using your special by pressing both the punch and jump buttons will take some of your life away. There are 7 stages overall, with some bonus stages, and one of the stages has you actually on top of a kind of a marine tank, and using each character's special attack, whether that be a machine gun or the predator's laser, to attack foes. Nice little fun kind of diversions as well. The music was composed by Hideki Oki, who is also known for writing music for Street Fighter 3 games. And I believe I've heard it mentioned that Aliens vs. Predator is actually one of his first kind of roles with Capcom, or first jobs that he's done. The music itself is very atmospheric, definitely at the time of the 90s, quite a bit of soundtrack, synth style music, which definitely fits the atmosphere of the Aliens vs. Predator universe. Unfortunately, the game itself has never really received a home release on any of the popular consoles of that time. There was a hope that in 2017 or 2018, at least maybe it was just my hope, that Capcom was going to release this game as part of their arcade bundle, which unfortunately they did not. And that arcade bundle did come to the PC, PS4, Xbox, and also the Switch, which I really, really was disappointed by. Especially since, actually for the Switch, that was a physical release if you bought it from Asia or Japan. Finally, Capcom, a little bit later in 2019, did get their license to release it for a home system, albeit it was for their Capcom home arcade control, kind of a plug-and-play system, which has the shape of the Capcom logo using Sanwa buttons and sticks. Unfortunately, I'm still hoping against hope that Capcom does release this for the other platforms like the Switch, PS4, and Xbox, or if they are going to be releasing it for that, have part of their Capcom Arcade Stadium, and that is purchasable, whichever way I can get it. Though I definitely would prefer to get a physical copy of this game. This game is definitely, I don't even want to say it's a cult following. I think just because it's never really received an official home release, besides again that Capcom arcade controller, it's kind of a hidden gem for folks that maybe weren't in the know. It's got a great varied gameplay. There's, I think after this, especially when they went to Dungeons and Dragons Shadows over Mysteria, where that had a bit of more of an RPG type beat 'em up gameplay, it really showed Capcom flexing their muscles. And besides, of course, having a home release, as I mentioned, the Switch, I also would not mind having a arcade 1-up home release of this game packaged with the Dungeons and Dragons games as well. For those 3 games, and having them all 3 playable over Wi-Fi would be amazing. If you are looking for this title, unfortunately, the only way you can have it play it right now is either through emulation, or if you are playing it, if you bought the Capcom arcade stick, or arcade stick slash home system, for I believe $249. That one is actually only 2 players, but this game actually supports 3 players. And of course, you can pick this up on a lot of the, you know, kind of pre-built Pandora boxes that you see on Amazon and eBay. Um, this version is actually from one of those Pandora joysticks that I picked up from Amazon. Plays rather well, but again, the limitation is you can only have 2 players. So I am definitely still hoping that it comes out for the Switch or the next gen consoles, so then you can actually have true uh, 3-player action. Hopefully, with wireless on multiplayer online would be great. The gameplay itself, graphics, sound, amazing, amazing for its time, and for a game from 1994, I think it has aged very well. There's really no slowdown except for when it's intended, even with so many different characters on the screen. I think this is also helped by the fact that, again, not every character has, especially the enemies, have tons of animation, but there's definitely more than enough to make it feel fairly smooth. Also, with the variety of the characters as far as their gameplay, helps with the longevity of this title as well. And it is fun to use each one and kind of get used to them. Um, the animation is very well done, especially for the main heroes and characters. I don't think they actually skimped when it comes to the 4 playable characters. While there of course are a little bit of more limited frames of animations with the enemies, considering how many is on the screen without slowdown, I completely forgive it. This is almost really one of the most perfect beat 'em up games that I've played. I think the only one that really beats it, or at least the only 2 that I would say that really beats it in my opinion, would be the Dungeons and Dragons Shadows over Mysteria, just because of the RPG aspect. Also, the uh, even deeper gameplay that entails, as it has an RPG aesthetic, and just because also for kind of my rose-colored nostalgic glasses, The Simpsons arcade game, just because it has a it's from a license that I love and grew up with. This game is also easily in the upper echelon of fighting and beat 'em ups. Fingers crossed that it eventually does get released. So right now, if you do want to pick it up, again, you can pick it up on the Capcom home kind of arcade system. You can pick it up on eBay. You can pick up that system on eBay. You can also pick it up on quite a few other areas, such as um, Pandora sticks on Amazon, things of that nature. I am gonna still hope against hope for more of an official release. Uh, this is my first Capcom review in regards to kind of their arcade games, as I've been mainly doing Neo Geo. I'm definitely not one camp over the other. I am platform agnostic when it comes to either companies or systems. So I do, of course, game on both PC, consoles, mobile. Really have no bone in either fight to stay in just one camp. Albeit when I was growing up as a kid, I was definitely more on the Sega Genesis bandwagon versus the Super Nintendo, but that was primarily because being a kid, you're limited to really your allowance to what you can invest in. As an adult, it is a little easier to be able to be platform agnostic. Doesn't mean it's any cheaper, but at least it's a little easier. Well, guys, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. I do have some other videos that I will be uploading. I will be mixing things up between both Capcom and SNK for the next few.